Welcome to the Growing Up Bananas, where we discuss the perks and tribulations of being bananas.
It's hard being yellow when I feel so white.
My name is Ethan. Sam sits next to me, and in many ways, I sit next to him.
Last episode, we spoke about fitting in versus embracing being Asian. Please check it out. This episode, we're talking about the stereotypes around business and connections. Every Asian over the age of 40 seems to have an endless supply of connections, and Donald will stop by later. Check him out on @Donald_Zeng_JJ on Instagram. Let's get on to it.
So I feel on the balance, being Asian, especially when you're at school, university, and professional services, which is the area I work in, being an Asian, the stereotype's pretty good. They assume you're hardworking, they assume you're good at numbers. Could be wrong, but that's the way I feel at the moment.
Yep, I agree. Being Asian helped me land my first job. I said on my resume that I could speak Korean. For all the homies that know me, the Korean is definitely there, but in some departments, mostly out of casual settings, is above par.
Did you have to stipulate whether it was to a working proficiency?
Nah,
Just that you spoke Korean?
just that I spoke Korean, which I can. I can get conversational Korean going okay, just laced with a beautiful, thick Australian accent.
That's fine. I've fallen into that trap, or being seduced rather, by the lure of putting down another language, only to then one day hopefully not being called out and actually having to speak it. So I've
That's
obviously being from South Africa, I can speak Afrikaans. I can understand most of it. Speaking, don't know about that. Chinese, I think I faked once or twice on the resume that I could speak Chinese.
well done.
If they asked, it was mainly just to order food at Yum Cha and things like that, which I can do.
Can you demo that for us?
No, I cannot.
Fair enough.
But I guess back to the stereotypes. On the balance, if we were to weigh it up, I think being Asian in today's day and age, especially given how strong the Asian reach is in the Western society, it's definitely a good thing to be Asian, I think.
Definitely doesn't hurt.
So you really are the epitome or the ultimate end game of being an Asian, being a maths teacher. Is that something that you made happen, or was it something that kind of just manifested over time?
That's a really good question.
Because I know for me, I'm very average at maths. I wouldn't say I'm good or bad. I'm average.
Yeah, no, I think, to be honest with you, I was much less the same. I was pretty average up till grade 10. Mum and dad weren't very pushy in terms of academics. They were more so, hey, this is a blank canvas. We're going to set you up with everything that you need. You do you. And if you works out, it's good. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So when I got to grade 10, I thought, well, I slowly started to go, maybe I should start putting in work. And I started putting in work, and it still hasn't stopped really. Like I don't think I'm anywhere near my close potential, but it's still things. Well, I'm still working on that journey.
Yeah.
You're probably.
Is maths something that you either are good at or you can develop it over time?
Nah, it's definitely something that you get better at over time. Like sport, for example, if I don't know, you've never done sport and you suddenly try to pick it up when you're like 15, there's going to be that struggle time.
But I guess if you're naturally gifted at it, you will excel.
Yeah, that always makes things easier. But I think in my experience, most people are, in the 99% where everyone's, at the same level. And it's just the people who start earlier or work harder, you're going to see dividends there.
So then why, when it comes back to race, growing up bananas, why is it a perception that Asians are better at maths?
Because a lot of the time it's maybe one or both things. So I know that I didn't have the typical Asian upbringing, and probably neither did you, but
No.
when, for example, my cousins in Korea, when they're in grade 10, 11, 12, I don't know how early they started, but I know that for a fact in grade 11 and 12, they were starting their school days at, 6, 7 a.m. and then coming home at 10, 11. Not doing academics the whole way through, but, for a majority of that time, they're either at school or tutoring or study sessions with friends. I don't know what study sessions are, but study sessions.
Knowing
with
and
friends.
probably actually studying.
Probably actually studying.
That's a full day of learning.
So yeah, they start that when they're that early, and I still don't do that now. So that's where I guess that stigma comes from, but also because in some cases parents have gone through a lot more. I mean, we've heard some crazy stories about people having to, go on. This might seem a little bit far-fetched for our listeners, but people being, hit by pirate ships while on boats coming to Australia.
Oh, it happens. It has happened.
But coming from that to, having a sustainable life in Australia, you don't get there by doing nothing. You've got to grind hard, and watching, I guess, parents or people around us go through that sort of, makes us woke.
Yeah. So it's that hard work, it's that work ethic, and then transferring it into other aspects. So maybe the struggle to get where they are now.
Yeah.
They know the hard work that it takes, and if you can then translate that into other areas,
Yeah.
you're gonna hopefully see some success.
And it's not just in people who are migrants as well. People in sports as well. They have insane work ethic. So that's why a lot of athletes or professional athletes can be successful post athletic career.
Yep. They've got that drive, and then that transfers to other areas of their lives.
You know that rock song, the song by The Rock? You got that drive?
The Rock. What song?
The one about drive?
No.
You got that drive. I don't know. I'm not going to try that, but
Sort of getting away from the topic, but just I guess while we're here, why do you think obviously there's money and there's just population, but put all that aside, why do you think the likes of China have been able to do so well in the Olympics when traditionally they haven't? What's your thoughts on that? Because Asians aren't stereotypically known for their athletic prowess, let's say. Or is it simply it's just money and a large population?
I don't think it's money. Population definitely plays a factor in it. But
Why isn't India cleaning up the Olympics then? Just playing devil's advocate.
I think different countries prioritize different things. I mean, we've seen that China's pretty ruthless with what they do. Whereas India, I can't speak for them, but maybe they have different focuses. Like, for example, the TikTok stuff that is big right now in China, they don't have a TikTok for, dances and silly songs.
Yeah.
They've got educational videos that promote science, that promote math to,
That was what TikTok was meant to be started for, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And then it became this short dance compilation.
Well, there are always rumors, but the rumors suggest that China changed that meaning for the US. So the idea behind that was that the US are promoting silly dances so people can become rich off that. So, people are living the influencer lifestyle and thinking that money comes easily, whereas, that's setting those Western countries back. Whereas China, who are promoting science, they're promoting different values. And
yeah, that makes sense. I guess a tool is just used for what you make it, right?
Yeah, and population, once again, isn't everything. I mean, if you look at Australia, we've got 27, 28 million, and we produce a lot of gold medals, a lot of good athletes.
Yeah.
So
well funded though, but your point's taken.
Yeah. Why do you think?
I don't know. I think you're right. You hit it on the head. It's where a country or an organization places their importance.
Yeah.
So for the likes of an India, they've got the resources, not to China's extent, but they've got it. Obviously, they've got the population. They're probably more into the likes of IT and other things.
Yeah.
The emphasis is slightly different. Maybe more so on, living a balanced life. I don't know. Not to say that the Chinese don't, but to get to the Olympic level, as we both know, you got to be pretty singularly focused.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, I know. I went to the Olympics. Nah, but yeah, I've always thought about that, about why China, because they didn't until they started.
Yeah.
Over the last 20 years. I think maybe it was the Beijing Olympics when they really turned it around, and
yeah, I think it's when they slowly started realizing that they had to redevelop.
They pick up a lot of medals from the repetitive.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll say this properly. So, yeah, if you look at the tallies on the medal counts, they tend to pick up a lot of their medals from the more repetitive sports. You're looking at your weightlifting, your gymnastics, sports that are more probably skill based than naturally athletically based.
Like you won't ever see an Asian sprinter.
Oh, that guy that Chinese guy made the 100-meter finals in the last.
Thanks for making me look silly.
Yeah. Anyway, he's one out of, let's call it 1.5 billion. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to the stereotypes. We've spoken about a couple of the positive ones. I think in the workplace, especially if you're able to speak with a decent command of the English language and also without so much of a thick accent, you're perceived to, one, have been here in Australia, which is probably a good thing, and secondly, that you have assimilated and that you're not some foreigner trying to take the local jobs. So in my eyes, I think that is a big thing, is having or the ability to speak English correctly or properly in the workplace, and that gets rid of quite a lot of the stigmas from what I've seen.
Yeah, I agree. Like on top of that, I think it's also the fact that people who you're talking to will think about your willingness to engage in other cultures.
Yeah.
I know that when I see other Korean, I'm sure that we can all. Fuck.
Right. Carry on.
I think it's important because we talk about the willingness to engage in other cultures. I mean, when we go to Asian restaurants with white people who have maybe not used chopsticks before, it's kind of funny to watch them at it. Yeah. But if they go straight to a fork, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. But when you see people see them try to use chopstick first, it's kind of cool just to be like,
yeah, look,
good on you for trying.
You appreciate the attempt.
Yeah,
the skill may not be there, but at least they're trying to. They're respecting the culture. It's probably the short and sharp of it.
The best foot forward. So, like, I guess that's the same thing when we see people like Asians are pretty racist as well. Let's just put that.
Oh, 100%.
But when we see other Asians, we think the same way that most people will. But when they, you get every now and then you get people who are willing to try new things. They're, not timid, but rather excited to put their hand forward in something they're not completely comfortable with. I think that's really what, I guess.
Just having a go, I think.
Yeah.
That's what everyone really respects in Australia.
100%.
Irregardless of the colour of your skin. In terms of some of the bad stereotypes, let's say bad/correct stereotypes, because most of them are true. And also, just to again premise, this is just really we can go on for days and days about the stereotypes, but this is just more about sort of business and culturally the circles that we're in. So we're keeping it to that because obviously conscious of time. But some of the bad stereotypes, the athletics is, as we touched on it, that is one. Yeah. That Asians are. You joked about it before. There's no one in the 100-meter sprint. That's changing. I'd say it's probably true. We don't have the certain power that's required to have success in those events. Even distance running, I don't see too many Asians in the distance running. Swimming was definitely one that is now changing, but traditionally you wouldn't see too many.
Definitely not.
At the top level. Bad vision. True. I've got terrible vision. You wear glasses.
Yes.
I wonder what it is. There's got to be some scientific reasoning as to why Asians in particular have such bad vision. Must be because our eyes are small. Yeah, we're trying really hard to focus.
But yeah, I think it's like another one that we have is that there are bad drivers. Which there are the number of times I've seen Asians that are or bad drivers, and I don't know who they are. I drove up to them naturally and see that they're Asian. It drives me nuts. But like you and I, we both.
What do the stats tell us? your own stats I'm talking about.
I've been driving for like
45 years.
63 years. And I've been in one at-fault accident.
Yeah.
That's just because on the bloody highway, it goes from, a 100-kilometer zone, and it was a standstill, and all the cars,
Couldn't see the brake lights on.
I did see the brake lights. I just couldn't stop in time, and it was a love tap into a trailer in front of me. But yeah, didn't bode well. But when we go to Asia, when I went, you see the people drive, and they're not actually. It looks normal, but everyone's driving there as they drive here, except we follow the rules here. So
maybe the rules are just too rigid, and the Asians are actually the good drivers. So maybe it's the rules that need changing.
Yeah, let's get rid of it. Nah, the rules are good.
No, I really I like having rules especially
good.
traffic rules.
So yeah, I think it may be a cultural thing, or maybe just they transferred this. They're driving here without the skills.
And inevitably, they're always driving really good cars, fast cars that a 45-kilo-old Asian woman probably shouldn't be when they can't see over the dashboard.
Yeah, and I think that one thing that sort of shows that is when you look at the driving statistics in Asia, there's not very many crashes.
Yeah, maybe it's the reporting that
maybe it is. It's happened before with COVID,
It's too controversial. But yeah, I mean, look, wrapping up on stereotypes, the negative ones. Yeah, there's all those, the athletics, the vision, the driving.
There's one more.
What is it?
Snakes in business.
Yeah, interesting. Now, I've thought about this, and I think it's more of a immigrant mentality than an Asian mentality.
So are we getting some first-hand perspective here?
I think so. So in some of my dealings, it's usually, again, it's back to what you said, in terms of the hard work and doing whatever you can for the family to progress and all that. You find the customers or the clients that have the more attention to detail, which is good, are usually ones of non-Australian backgrounds. It's probably the way to put it. I know I can speak first. My mum, probably your mum, my mother-in-law, lovely ladies, but they want a deal. They want the right deal, and they are chasing no less. And I guess that's what competition does, is it allows for negotiation and bargaining.
Speaking of my mum and dad, my dad's done business for a long time, and he is a good talker, but he's never, one thing I really respect about him is he doesn't snake people to get what he wants.
Yeah, there's never a need to snake anyone in anything. So,
but I think when people do it, it's usually coming from a place of desperation more than anything,
which is usually from an immigrant background.
Yeah.
But no, sorry, carry on. Yeah,
that's all I was going to say. Whereas for people who do give us that stereotype, it's either coming from a place of desperation or in their respective countries, if they are migrants, it's because they've had that instilled in them that they need to fight for whatever they get, and even though that may not look correct to us, that's what they do.
So the stereotypes, like I said, we didn't want to dive too deep into it. There's so many different ways that we can look at it. But then let's look at connections, as they call it, which every Asian person in particular seems to have a bucket load of connections. What do you think that is?
Ethan, all I know is that you've got hookups to meet, and I like it.
I love my meat hookup. So I've had a good think about it, and the connection side is possibly just because there's so many Asians out there, and they usually tend to mix in the similar circles, and because of that, someone down the track somewhere is going to do something handy, whether it's a meat hookup, seafood, whatever it is, food, building. There's going to be someone that knows someone who is going to be handy, and the communities are quite small, way smaller than you think. Even the Brisbane business community, everyone's worked with each other at some point. So everyone's come across someone else in the industry or not at some point.
Yeah, that's valid. You've got all this talk about connections. I'm interested to hear a bit more. Tell me about how you've seen these connections at work.
Yeah, so personally, the connections, it's definitely growing over time. But a really funny and cool example was when we went over to China to visit some of our family. So one of our cousins, she married a gentleman who was, I believe his brother was the mayor of the city. So he had an abundance of connections when we were in China. Literally, we go catch the bus. He knew the bus driver knew someone else. When we were trying to go to dinner a couple times, apparently he had to reject 7 or 8 dinners that one night for people who wanted to take him out for dinner. Don't know why, but they did. As any self-respecting Asian person will know, you have your peppermint oil, the 4 seasons, can be used for absolutely any injury or any ailment whatsoever. We showed him the box and he was like, oh yeah, I'll call someone. And apparently he had some person who was either importing it or was actually making the stuff. So this guy was connected. And then back to the question is, how does this come about? Why does he have so many connections? And I think it goes back to Asians just knowing a lot of people. You're building it up over time, and everyone always wants to work or spend time around people that are like-minded or similar to you. So that way, that's how I think the connections side of it seems to grow.
I like that. So we're going to be speaking to someone who has a lot of connections very soon.
I like to look at him as a connection. So Donald's coming on later. He's very experienced in the building, construction, real estate industry, and someone who I lean on time to time for advice. And it's going to be a really insightful hour or so when we speak to him and get an insight onto what, how he's actually made himself successful in my eyes in Australia.
All right, sweet. Well, let's invite Donald on too.
Let's get him on. So we're very grateful to have Donald join us today. I've known him for around 5 years. He's worked in the building industry and actually helped build our house or put it all together. He's always been extremely professional, knowledgeable, but mostly approachable, and we've kept in contact ever since. Donald has years of experience in the building and construction and real estate industries. He's a lovely guy, hit with the ladies, but most importantly, he's going to give us some information or some stories around his experiences in Australia. So, how are you, Donald?
Pretty good, thanks, guys. And I think this is a opportunity to share some of my stories, and also to hopefully listen to your stories as well.
Yeah, thanks.
Happy to have you here. Donald, can you start by telling us where you hail from and what your passions and hobbies are?
Right. So I like riding motorcycles, gym, a bit of a boxing. I love Mike Tyson.
I saw you had a photo of him on your Instagram.
Yeah, so that was 5 years ago when I went to the States, and I was visiting my mom and my sister. And then I went into one of the big shopping center in Houston.
Yep.
And then I passed through a sort of a souvenir shop, all those celebrities autography, right?
Yep.
And I went there. I said, well, I really wanted Mike Tyson's boxing glove. And then he said, well, Mike Tyson's tomorrow actually will be in Vegas.
Yep.
I said, fantastic. You know what? And, went back home and then booked a flight ticket. So went straight to Vegas.
How good is that?
Was it just like a signing? It wasn't an exhibition. Obviously, he doesn't do them. But
no, I think it just Mike Tyson was struggling. I think financially.
Yep.
In the past, I heard something like he owned other people, other company, millions of dollars.
Yep.
So they were trying. He was trying to just feed the family, pay the bills, and then buy meeting fans in some of the shops where they sell souvenirs, right? The boxing gloves or boxing bills. And then I was the first person waiting. And I was the first to meet Mike Tyson, and I was so surprised. I'm quite nervous.
Yeah. Well, what do you say to him? Like, it's like when you meet a celebrity, what do you say?
I said, well, I was seriously, for the first couple seconds, I was speechless. I don't know what to say. Imagine the heavyweight champion, the youngest heavyweight champion in the world, right in front of you, and then we shake hand first, and then his hand was massive, guys. So almost like a 8% bigger than my hand. I got a quite big hand, right?
Yeah.
And well, he's a nice guy. He could speak ni hao, you know. I think he was doing a movie with Danny Yen.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, winning a movie. It was a lovely experience.
Yeah, nice. Sorry to cut you off, but yeah. So you from China originally, and how did you end up in Australia?
I wasn't a particularly a good student, according to that standard back then in China.
Yep.
Right. A good student back then got to be super good with study. You got to be good with math, Chinese, English, biology, history, physics.
Did you grow up in a big town?
Qingdao is quite big. I think back then was 5 million people.
Yep.
Right. I wasn't a particularly good student according to that standard, and but I was very good with the things, the subjects I really enjoyed, like history, psychology, and geography, things like that. And actually, English was my weakest subject back then.
Couldn't tell. I can't tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then after I finished grade 9, and then I decided I want to be an actor. So I didn't go through the normal high school, and I said, "Mom, I want to be an actor." Mom was supportive, and then sent me to the acting school. Studied for a year, and then I couldn't see the future simply because that classroom didn't have the atmosphere.
Yep.
Didn't have the ingredients to produce actors, celebrities, things like that.
So you say your mum was supportive. What about your dad?
Well, my mom and dad are very different people. My mom is really open to new ideas, hardworking, the typical tiger mom type of,
Yep.
My dad is quite traditional, very traditional in terms of pretty much everything. So my mom was the supportive side of my education, things like that.
Yeah, nice.
So then, how did you choose Australia? What?
Long story short, I couldn't go to the US and the UK.
And before you came, what did you think of it?
Well, I thought it was a scam or something.
Right.
Seriously, I went to, but anyway, after that, came to Australia, went to year 11, year 12. And then there was a sister school in China. Basically, we got trained 1 year language at year 10 in China, Jinan. And then we came here to do year 11, year 12. So in my mind back then, I thought Australia was like high rises everywhere, super advanced, and then the international student coordinator picked me up from Brisbane airport, and then drove all the way to Sunshine Coast.
Oh, jeez.
I was like, what's
There's
going on
nothing
here?
on the way there.
It's
Yeah,
like
it's
countryside.
trees. Yep.
Seriously, I thought I was scammed. It was a scam or something. And so after years later, I realized, wow, I'm glad I went to Sunshine Coast for high school.
Yep.
That was
That's
the
a
most
good place.
authentic experience that I could possibly have as an international student.
And you took English classes in China. What was your English like when you came here?
Super bad.
Were you anxious or nervous about not being able to speak?
At the beginning, of course.
Yeah.
Completely new language, and then had a lot of embarrassing moments.
Yeah.
One time, it was international school, right? I get along with the few German kids very well. And then one of the German kids, I still remember his name, called Knut, a very odd name. Knut said, Donald, we got a party. I said, fantastic, let's go. When I was 17 or something, still. Right. And I went there, and then Knut said, just let you know, it's alcohol-free place. I said, oh, fantastic, free alcohol.
Yeah.
I told my homestay mom, Mom, I just call her mom. Mom, I'm going to the party, and then alcohol completely free. Mama said, how could that happen?
That's a great party.
Yeah, that. But I reckon because the personality, it comes down to personality. I talk a lot.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I wouldn't be a sales consultant, right? Good at sales, and I have always been fascinating or interested in foreign culture, different things.
Yep.
People from different cultural backgrounds, those kind of multicultural things that actually really excites me. When you're really interested in something, I think you tend to learn faster and quicker.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I've got a million questions right now
Yeah,
going through my head.
It's incredible.
I'm going to start with this one though.
Okay.
What was the dynamic with your homestay family? What was?
I was gonna ask something.
Oh, happy days.
So they were white. I'm assuming. Yep.
Yes. So her name is Dawn. Lovely lady. She lived in Sydney for most of her life. And then she moved to Sunny Coast back in 2004 in Kiwana Waters. And then very lucky. So I was the only kid that stayed with her for 2 years. A lot of my classmates, they changed many homestays, which wasn't a good thing, right? Imagine you constantly.
Yeah.
No stability.
The dynamic wise, I think it took me some lessons to really get a taste of Australian culture. And took some time for me to get used to the culture.
So there was a big clash.
Yeah, huge.
What was the biggest thing?
I think personally, I cannot speak, on behalf of the rest of the Asian.
Sure.
But my experience wise, I took a lot of things for granted. For example, when my friends or classmates coming over, Chinese classmates, friends coming over, they didn't bring anything. They just come to eat and drink, and then didn't even clean the dishes.
Yeah.
They left, and then I thought it was normal, right? Back home, I was looked after very well by my parents, even by some helpers. So, but then here was when you visit somebody, you got to bring something to share.
Yep.
And then house duty wise, you got to share with the family member. That was one of them.
It's interesting. So it wasn't necessarily family. It was just this lady. Was it Dawn?
Dawn. D-A-W-N.
Oh, Dawn. Yeah.
Dawn Fraser.
Were
there any kids there that you grew up with, or was it just Dawn?
My homestay mom, her personally got a lot of stories. She was the beauty queen back in 1976 in Sydney.
Yeah, right.
So bikini, that she was very, very pretty, and she had her daughter at age of 16. So their relationship wasn't like a mom and daughter, was like sister rival type of relationship. And then when I was living with my homestay mom, so Karina, her daughter was working in Fraser Island as a manager, so tourist manager or something.
I was going to ask about did you grow up with someone your own age, or was it more so with Dawn that you just stayed with Dawn and lived with Dawn?
I stayed with Dawn for 2 years.
Yep.
And she didn't have any sort of grandkids or anything around my age.
Okay. Yeah. So it was you and okay, sweet. Okay.
So if we take a step back then, Donald, so year 11, 12 in Australia, it's tough changing schools, even if you're not from China at that age. So obviously you said you were nervous. You said there was all these things. How did you adapt academically and then also socially?
Believe it or not, I was a rock star. I was a rock star.
On the sunny coast, for a lot of people that don't know, there's not a lot of Asians.
There
really isn't.
I was like 8 Chinese students, including me, went to Commander Water State College. And I was, I speak to everybody. I smile a lot. I do a little bit of kung fu. There was sort of a pathway with a roof, right?
Yep.
To connect to different home groups. And then, so actually the beam, the timber beam of that roof is about 2 meters or something. Because I was flexible back then, 17, 18, I jumped quite high. I just jumped and kicked the timber beam. All the kids was like, holy shit, Bruce Lee type of thing.
Yeah, this is normal. I do this all the time.
And I enjoyed every day studying there, and then and I also got elected as a school captain. Jesus Christ!
Cool.
For somebody who couldn't speak proper English and a school captain, but purely because of the personality. And then
the movie star looks as well. It's must play into it. I think so.
So I really enjoyed it, to be honest. In comparison, the rest of the Chinese students were a bit of shy.
Yep.
Didn't want to talk to other people. Just wanted to stick within their own group, pretty much.
Yeah, it is a little bit atypical, isn't it, Donald's sort of experience?
Yeah, not what I expected. I think a lot of the kids would have been exactly like the other Chinese kids that you said were there, kind of a bit timid, sitting back a little bit, but looked like it served you quite well.
Very well. I wasn't confident at all back in China because you were judged. I was judged. Most of kids judged by their academic performance.
Yep.
So, when it comes back to this topic, I really think I'm lucky in a sense that I had the opportunity to see both worlds, right? And the Chinese educational system back then was to produce heaps scientists, mathematicians, or smart people, because of China back then. China back then was behind US and Europe 30 years. People talking about, the US is 30 years advanced than Asia, China. And then as a developing country, China back then could only catch up by producing millions of smart people. Then, but that is not one size for all system. So I wasn't the one benefiting from that system. So I was the weird one, with the bad kid.
Yeah.
But then,
So is that even with your was your personality the same back in China as well, the bubbly, social kid?
Yeah, always the same. But at the same time, although my academic performance wasn't good, but still I got elected as they give you this title,
A class captain or something.
Not class captain. It's more like a subject representative.
Yeah. It's funny you talk about that because I was watching a podcast the other day about school, and it was kind of about, obviously it's good to keep up with people your age when it comes to academics and developments and things like that. But they're saying with school, you put in this box that if you're not this smart at a certain age or whatever it might be, that you're well behind and you're in trouble. And they're saying, well, if that was the case, shouldn't that mean the oldest people are the smartest and the richest? Which isn't true, right? It's never true. So it's just another way of looking at school. And it's not to say that school's bad or anything. It's just from a kid's psychology who can't really understand the difference between this guy's smarter than me, I need to then be better or whatever it is.
Yeah.
It can definitely mess with your head.
Absolutely.
I had one question. I can't remember what it was. Oh, yes, that's right. So Ethan and I were speaking about this before, but I was talking about my cousins who live in Korea, and when they were in high school, they were working insane hours. as in studying insane hours, were you the same back in China? Were you forced to, or did you have the expectation on you to study?
Yes. All the time. All the time.
So what were your typical hours? Because Sam was saying his cousins kind of did 6 till
Late at night,
9, 10 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
Oh, that is pretty. That was kind of normal, even back in China as well. Well, one of the stories. So, I wanted to go abroad to study. Mom was very supportive. Say, her best. Dad wasn't supportive at all. He said, "Well, the kids, the students who going overseas to study, always the top kids. You couldn't speak English properly. You." Suck at academic, why you go abroad? But then, long story short, we came to a solution. So they sent me to this countryside, a very poor countryside.
Yeah.
And then 50 students living in one room, this kind of thing.
Wow.
And even that, there's a bucket, very super poor, very poor place. And my parents was just trying to teach me, okay, you got to, like a army camp type of thing. You got to appreciate, you got to study hard to recap all the knowledge you need to know, right? There was the 50 students living in one room. It's like 3 levels, right? So many beds. And there was like a bucket, tall bucket. And right next door, I was the one, because I joined the class very late. So I was the one actually close to that bucket. Oh God, 3 months. But I finally did it. I'm glad. 5 o'clock, the schedule was 5 o'clock. Get up, running for 20 minutes. Class started at 5:30, and then all the way to 6 o'clock. I did that for three months.
And then what happened then at the 3 months? Was that the end of it, or you said enough?
Well, that was year 9. Everyone was so focused to get the best result, to get into a good senior high school. So basically 3 months, and then I left there and then went to Jinan, preparing to come to Australia.
Yeah, cool.
Good experience though.
Yeah, cool. Jeez, that's. I mean, we're so soft.
Very
I
soft.
talk for myself. I would not be able to do that. I know that I wouldn't be able to do that.
So then, how did that translate? So when you came here, obviously you've gone from, that to what we have in Australia, which is relatively chill. Did you excel academically?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I only, all the Australian educational system allows students to pick the subject they enjoy,
Yeah.
they like. So I picked the subjects I liked, and then I did it very well.
Yeah.
And it's built up my confidence a lot.
So I'm a teacher.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I guess one of the things that always floats around in my head is, do we give young people choice, or do we not give them choice and make them do things they're not used to? Like when you were in, I guess, China, you were forced to do a lot of things you didn't want to do. And I think when you grow up, that sort of translates. Like, even if there's stuff that, paying the mortgage or doing things you don't necessarily enjoy doing, you do them anyway, because it's like, oh, I've done this my whole life. I do things that I don't want to do. Do you find that, like, in retrospect, do you think that you would have liked the choice, or are you happy that you just did what you were supposed to do, or did what you had to do?
I could say I am happy only because I had my not so good experience. Any appreciation, respect, or there's a comparison. Bad, good, high, short, right? It's
Yep.
Ugly, beauty, it's all sort of you compare it. Then absolutely, I think who I am was my experience in China definitely was gold, and then helped me to excel in Australia, to sort of like make me a more completed person.
So Donald, you've spoken about being a bit of a rock star during school and possibly going against the grain of the typical Asian international student. Looking at the next phase of your life, how has that sort of personality or even just the race side benefited you? So let's talk maybe business, or maybe the first few years outside of uni.
The good question, really good question. I've never. This is the first time I really think about it. I think because of the experience in Australian high school, I built up the confidence, and I learned how to love it, the custom, the how to grade people, how local people think, and also I made friends from all over the world, from Japan, Korea as well, and yes, that has a huge impact on my current job and business, right? So as a business, we're dealing with everybody, successful business owners, local, and also doctors, medical staff, developers,
Yep.
and average working class people as well.
So we spoke about it off camera just before, around, being true to your own Asian culture, the Chinese culture, the good, the bad things that come with it, versus then trying to fit in and assimilate and, be like the majority of the people. Is there anything you wanted to add on to that? So firstly, I guess on staying true, what's been really good that you've carried through from your culture? And then after that, let's talk about what you've then done and try to take that next step to assimilate.
Yeah, good question. So I'm really proud of my, the Asian culture. Took many generations to, to have those good stuff, essence, right? I particularly like the respect to older people, like your grandpa, your parents, that part of Asian culture, and also how we help each other selflessly, and also always think as a group, as a team, and also just tie together.
Yeah. So just trying to keep as much of that as you can,
Absolutely.
using that in in business, in your personal life.
Personal life, yeah.
And then on the next part, so then versus actually assimilating and wanting to, be like a typical Australian.
You can only be proud of in the dating world, right? You can only. I personally found you can only attract the right person when you're really proud of who you are. You're not gonna attract the right person when you're really insecure about who you are.
So then before we move on to business, let's talk a little bit about dating.
Wow, fun stuff.
So for you, what sort of women do you tend to go for? Is it Asian women, or how does it usually work? Anyone?
Everybody. No, I mean, I tend to like a particular type of women. Cute.
But in terms of race doesn't factor
no,
in. It's probably at the end. It's
I dated,
convenience.
People from all, pretty much most of the not most of the countries. A lot of Korean, Chinese, Australian, and Indian girls as well. So they're lovely.
Can I just go back a little bit? I'm going to go a little bit off topic. Just with the identity thing, because that's I guess a big part of our podcast. Yeah. So you came from China where some things weren't quite cool for you. Then you came here and it was really good for you. And you're speaking about how Chinese heritage is really important for you. Like it's a big part of yourself. Yeah. And that confidence part and that comfort part, how does that all tie in? So when did you realize, okay, I love being Australian, or I love living in Australia, or I love what it has to offer, but I'm Chinese. I need to embrace that. When did you come to that realization? Or what was there a defining point? Or
my parents. When I think about if I'm dating a Australian girl, lovely girl, how I'm gonna manage the two family situation. Yeah, got me really think about who I am. How do I deal with it?
So you want to stay as true to yourself as you can because you know down the track it may come up, and you don't want to pretend like you're something else.
No,
It's a real grown man move.
it's not always easy,
It's
Yeah,
not.
that's definitely
A lot of awkward moment as well. Imagine trying to, my parents, they don't speak English. My mom could speak a few words. My dad is completely, knows nothing about English.
So, just with your parents, and then let's just say that someone's from another ethnicity. How do you sort of go? I want to do this, but I have to accommodate for my parents.
When I'm dating, dating, I always pick the one that appreciate my culture.
Yeah.
And for example, using chopsticks. So you can, and you
Is that a deal breaker for you if your
initially
your partner doesn't want to use the
can't
chopsticks?
you can't even pick up sweet and sour pork.
Or at least
How can we have dinner together?
at least try to, right?
Yeah,
At least attempt.
You get a feel. You get you pick it up quite quickly.
Yeah.
Whether that lady really like your culture or not.
So it's whether they're happy to. I guess the word we've been using is assimilate. So if they're happy to assimilate to Chinese culture or embrace some of it,
Absolutely.
that's the okay.
Probably to be respectful of the culture and not make a
Quite open.
yeah.
And
No, that's good. Then moving on to business. So for anyone who doesn't know, Donald, as I said at the start, is very experienced in real Irish crickets. If anyone watches the Victory podcast, but yeah, Donald's very experienced in what he does. He knows a lot about construction, real estate, all those things. So the stereotype of the hardworking Asian man, has that been to your advantage?
absolutely.
Yeah, I would say so.
Working weekend is like normal days.
Yeah.
Working weekend, never complain about it. When I first, when I was doing uni many years ago, I used to work in a fruit shop, and then there was an Australian guy always complaining working on Sunday. I was like, "What you talking about? You get double paid, man."
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And so hardworking. That is part of my family's identity. My parents, both of them, super hardworking. That is really passed down to me, and that is the bottom line. That is the
You've got that. Everything else follows.
And then having the ability to speak Chinese and obviously be your Chinese yourself with all the investment that's come through Australia in the last 10, 20 years, that's also probably been quite advantageous for you as well in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Good timing as well for me. We are probably around the same age, and being in Queensland, in Brisbane, in Australia, is really a lot of opportunities for us to capture. And being Chinese, could speak Mandarin. I couldn't speak Cantonese, by the way. So speaking Mandarin definitely is a huge advantage. Heaps investment flooded in from China in the past many years. I think it definitely helped me.
I know for us when we were dealing with you at Metricon, and Greg's never going to listen to this clearly, but we always just felt more comfortable with you. Maybe it was because you're Chinese and we are, but I think it was also your manner. Obviously, very knowledgeable and everything, very helpful. But from us as a Chinese family, we just always felt more comfortable with you. Don't know why. Could be either of those two. But I think definitely it would play into your hands quite well.
Yeah.
Can you speak about some of the experiences that you've had? So we spoke about when you were at the Metricon, like the investment, that side of it at the end of your tenure there. Any stories around working with some Chinese clients?
Well, they always invite you for dinner, and
Dinner's given that there's drinks involved, right?
absolutely.
Yep.
Well, two type of clients, right? One is wanting you to build a house for them. They will treat you a very nice dinner, make you feel super comfortable, part of the family, type of thing. and drinking, of course. The other type of group of people is the developers. Back in 2020, I was in one of Metricon's development and investment department called Metro Living.
Yep.
Basically, that we found the developers who got land, who got land that can be subdivided or already got DA approved or already, civil work already been done and about to launch the market. So basically we find those developers, these people, and found the right floor plans to put on those blocks, and then we sell it. Definitely. And the funny thing is most of the developers were Chinese.
Yeah.
And then they are sort of our parents' age. They love drinking. They just love drinking. Sometimes they invite you dinner every week to talk about business, but every week I go drunk.
What sort of stuff does the typical Chinese drink? Are they beer, wine?
Everything. Everything. One time I was so basically this developer, 3 developers together, they got the projects, right? And then the Metro Living's general manager, another general manager, they all Australian, and me, I was late printing brochures because in a business setting, we still wanted to pass the message through, right? Here's the
You want to get an outcome from the meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was late, and then the developer said, "Drink, Donald, drink." So basically, if there was one developer, fine, 1 glass of wine, bam. But there was 3, bam, 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 and then I didn't have lunch, by the way.
Oh, jeez, that would have been messy.
Yeah, so was part of the culture, I think. And when after that, I thought about why would those developers do that, and then finally I found out it's because that drinking was how they create their wealth. When they were young, they drink they sacrifice their health, body, to get a deal done when they were young. And then when they made a fortune, right? And then they wanted to be the person on the other side of the table. So that is, and also it reminds them of the beautiful memories, the happy dinner that they had back in China or back in Hong Kong or Taiwan. That is something I found particularly.
This sounds like what you want to do with Charlie.
Oh, 100%. If he wants to get the deals, he's got to do it. But so on that, Donald, would you feel like they were putting you through I don't want to call it punishment, but the same
rite of passage
to get the deals? Is that sort of where you were going with that?
There's I don't know if Sam feel that or not. I found that in Australia, people do business first. For example, if you want to build a house, I built you a good house, you're happy, then we perhaps develop our friendship. We'll get along, we have the same hobby, then we have a beer, and then become friends, right? But China is the other way around. You got to make friends first and then do business.
Yep.
Yeah.
And have you found that?
I'm a one drink wonder. As soon as I have one, I'm pretty much done for the night.
Then you wonder.
Then I wonder. What's Chinese smack talk? So like obviously when you're drinking, you're talking a lot of shit. What do you talk about? Does it start with business and then it goes into la la land or
everything? I start with brotherhood. Always brotherhood. They always talk about
a lot of cheers.
A lot of cheers.
Yep.
A lot of I'm so glad to know you, my brother. And then get a bit tipsy, and then you talk about things you've done that you're really proud of, and then you talk about women. You could talk about everything pretty much.
So creating a bond, and then
once you got that, then the business starts to flow.
And also that is always a good way to know somebody. They're really personality.
Drunk, yeah.
If they if you do business in China, you're always trying to protect yourself, right? Because a lot of dodgy people, you just don't do business with dodgy people. Drinking can really tell somebody's personality.
Yep.
If they are honest or they are dodgy or they are trying to just
get women. Hey, it comes out all the time. So Donald, then back to the timeline. So you went to this team of Metricon. Why did that then end? Is it too much? The liver was taking a beating.
So you're saying why? How did that end?
Yeah. So was it the lifestyle was probably getting the better of you?
So never. I would prefer the Australian way that business is business, right?
Yep.
If we sort of have same interest with friends, but I found that my body wasn't the same. Number one, because COVID, I couldn't go to gym all the time.
Yep.
I used to training in the gym a lot, and I found my body wasn't right. You just strong anymore. You keep drinking, then it's not like in your early 20s, right? You get drunk the next day.
Yeah.
Same.
No
Nothing
hangover.
happened.
Go again.
When you reach 30, your body just couldn't handle that amount of alcohol. It take you a few days to feel normal again. So I really, is this the way I wanted to do business? Is this the only way? Then I sort of distant that from me a little bit.
It's cool that you can see the big picture like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made a decision early rather than too late.
I think it really caused me to join my current company wasn't because of drinking, was just, I know that was part of the culture. It's because I had a better opportunity.
Yep.
Definitely, if I had a choice, I wouldn't prefer to drink to get the business done. At the end of the day, is after your talent, your experience, to put it this way, to make money, right?
Yeah.
So if you could be valuable to the developer and the happy days.
Are there any stereotypes about being Asian, or not even the stereotypes, just being Asian? Were there any downsides when it comes to business?
I tend to find it's harder to build connection with the local Australian.
Yep. I'm glad you're honest about that.
Yeah, and then it's easier to build a relationship with your own people, but then it's harder because your accent, I still got my strong Chinese accent, right? Then to them, especially for those successful people, the business owners, I found it particularly difficult to get a good connection with them. It's, back in Metricon days, because I was in the signature team, and I was building $1 million homes. Those people always about 40, 50 years of age. They had their family. They done a lot of things. They want to talk about things, life in general.
Yeah.
Right? Me, as a 28 years old, back then, 20 years old, I didn't have much to really to chat about, apart from building a house. That I think that is I particularly found that language, my accent, being Chinese, and also lack of life experience, I found it difficult to build up the connection with Australian clients.
Yeah. No, it's glad that you're able to see that and I guess understand it as well. I think so. Sam and I were talking earlier. The accent, and I think the accent plays a huge part in the stereotype. So if you have a strong, or not as strong, if you have an Australian accent, they assume that you're here. They assume that you're well integrated and all that. It's a bad assumption, but it probably is true.
It sometimes still happens here as well. Like I think when I go to parent-teacher interviews, sometimes like they think Mr. Chai, and then they think before they speak to me, they think I'm going to have an accent, and then when they speak to me, it's like, oh,
You talk normally.
Yeah, pretty much.
I get it all the time, to be honest.
So
it's quite funny.
Yeah, like 100% can see like where that might come to your detriment. Yeah. But it looks to me as if there are always two ways to look at things, and you always try to take the positive out of it, which is a really good mindset to have.
Any advice to young Donald or younger Donald? So when you were 17 to maybe 22, is there anything in terms of the transition to Australia? It sounded like it was pretty smooth for you, thankfully. Is there anything you look back now in hindsight and think, maybe I could have done that differently, maybe my mindset wasn't right? Is there anything you can think of?
Well, whatever. I think if I had the opportunity to tell the younger Donald, I would say, whatever you do, try your best to do it. No matter study or doing become a carpenter, or maybe become whatever you do, just try your best to do it, because that pass is done. You don't have time, or you probably won't have the second opportunity to do it again. Yeah, I would say that.
And I think for you as well, your English has gotten way better, to be honest, since it wasn't bad ever, but it's gotten way better, and it's not a barrier for, to not have success. You've overcome that. You've come from, as you explained, all these different circumstances, not being one of the, top students in China, and you've come here and, made a success in Australia based off other things that wasn't just purely, grades and intelligence and all that thing. There's other things that you've been able to bring to the table.
Yeah, you named you just mentioned success. I don't think I'm a successful person at the moment. I'm trying my best to head into that direction, but definitely I'm successful regarding who I am now. I'm very happy who I am, and the things happened to me and the things I could have done better. So yeah, I think yeah, it's good. It's good to ride.
I guess that's a really subjective thing. It's a cool thing that you found happiness. Congratulations. What metrics do you use to say, hey, I'm happy now?
I don't know. I think it's just personality, maybe. Upbringing, family.
Maybe stability in your life.
I don't think I have a stable life.
You don't think so?
No, I only lived with my parents for maybe 6 years. I was
constantly living with teacher and relatives. I didn't feel a sense of stability or home. I think mom always say, for those the younger mom and dad who are for those who are about to become a parent, right? I think always encourage your kids rather than punish them. Always tell them they are the best, and then always trying to be the best. And I had that very positive upbringing, from my parents' side.
Yeah, love moms.
It's so important. It's so important though. That exactly what Donald just said. You can kind of overcome most things if you have support, if you have the right mindset,
and encourage good people around them.
And then at the end of the day, success is whatever you want it to be, really. So,
yeah, I like that.
Great.
Okay, we've just got one more thing. It's 8 questions, rapid fire. Just answer with the first thing that comes to your head. Doesn't need detail. All good. Texting or calling?
Calling.
Summer or winter?
Summer.
Favorite city?
Brisbane.
Nice.
Japanese or Korean food?
Japanese.
Friends or How I Met Your Mother?
What is that?
The TV shows. Friends is an American sitcom. Actually, they're both American sitcoms, but
Friends or
How I Met Your Mother?
Friends.
Ooh. Sunset or sunrise?
Sunset.
Nice. Reality shows or documentaries?
Documentaries.
Would you rather have the ability to pause time or rewind time?
Rewind.
See, this last one we always ask, and why?
I think I'm stubborn. I'm a very stubborn person. Positive side of being stubborn is if you head to the right direction, you make positive things, right? If you head to the wrong direction, you create big damage. I think over the years, being positive, sometimes a little bit over too confident, and then I made a lot of mistakes and hurt some people, including my mom. Said something really horrible to my mom.
Yeah, we've all been there. Yep.
And then I really hope that I didn't hurt them that much. Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fair. So what's next for you then, Donald? Obviously, Brookhaven Homes. Yeah, you're heavily involved there. Bit of downturn in the building industry or the economy as a whole. What's next for you? Just continue to keep doing the same?
Family, I think. I think I want to have a family. And watching you that with Alex or having had a baby, and I found that when I have a stable family, I feel more secure, and I feel more. I just have feel more.
And with your parents, are they happy to stay in China, or are they any plans to come to Australia?
Yeah, I think in the long term, definitely they will.
They want to be around their grandkids, I'm sure.
Yeah, and especially when I grew up, I didn't spend a lot of time with them, and in the next 5 to 10 years, they're still young. The mom had me when she was 21, so in the next 5 to 10 years, and then they will eventually move to Brisbane, and then we will be a family together.
Would you move? That's really cute. But would you move back to China?
As far I could say, probably not. I tried, but failed.
Yeah. Oh wow.
You can go back and make it as an actor.
Well,
Just
even
work
now,
on that flexibility again.
no, well, I think this is the best plan for myself. I kind of think that, when you hear those people say that the world is a virtual reality type of thing, you really think if it is true, then you have different decisions you made, and then different directions.
Yep.
No matter which direction.
I watched it was about this documentary about the Springboks. My parents, if they're listening, they'll enjoy this. The coach said everyone believes in destiny, but he was trying to give a big pump up speech, and he said destiny. He's like, screw that. He said F that. Destiny is governed by your decisions, which I think is so true. There's destiny, and then there's what you actually do to make it either happen or not.
Yeah.
So
Similar to the fortune teller, right? To read your palm.
I used to have the greatest palm readings ever. Like, because I got a straight line through my palm, and all the readers, it's rich and all this stuff. And, if you let it manifest, yeah, fair enough. But sometimes you can rest on your laurels and it might not happen because you don't take the opportunities.